In 2023, we saw a notable outlier in data. We saw something that really breaks down some of the narrative that we have built about emerging markets over time. We saw a strong dollar, we saw tight liquidity, we saw some weakness in commodities, and yet we saw resilience in many of the core emerging markets. And so this is something that we take as maybe a sign of the growth in the asset class and really how it's becoming much more of a mainstream type asset class for investors. What we're looking at going into next year is really a continuation of what we saw countries achieve this year, despite what were more of the headwinds that people were seeing. So we're looking at the countries that are having reforms that are really, rolling through their economies, that are bringing the growth that was always out there as they were thinking about the reforms. And, you can think about countries like in India or in Indonesia, where we're really seeing the impact. We're seeing countries where maybe the economies are coming in stronger than people were expecting through all of 2023, and so they're well positioned to continue that into next year, like maybe Brazil, Mexico. So, some of these are really the core mainstream countries, and we're still quite favorable on them. So what we saw coming into November was this massive risk-on rally in the U.S. credit. We didn't really catch that so much in emerging markets. And so what we had seen mostly throughout this year is almost an unusual tightness in emerging market spreads relative to developed market spreads. And it was really, once again, that you had to look under the hood. And it wasn't really on the EM side that we were seeing the lack of value. What we were seeing is that on the DM side, spreads were, especially in the high-grade ratings categories, are really being impacted by the financials. So, the idea would be when you have regional banks so wide, that really pushes maybe the low single A's, high triple B's wider. Is it really fair to compare that to high-quality single A's in emerging markets? But anyway, it was standing out as really a tight spread. When we saw this rally in November and emerging markets really didn't catch that, it has now normalized the spread differential to, maybe in the investment grade area, it's 40 to 50 pickup premium over the developed market, and in high yield, we're back to maybe 100, 120 pickup. So we think that we're very well positioned now going into 2024 from that spread differential. We've been getting many questions about really the export situation coming out of China. It seems to have bottomed. Will this be a tailwind for China growth, EM growth, global growth next year? Clearly having China export, the engine back working, will be supportive for a recovery in China. So we will be looking for that as one of the pillars for the China growth stabilization, I would call it. We also are very positive what that means for emerging markets, but also would like to caution that, this is not the driver of emerging market growth like it used to be. We have seen emerging market countries really come up with their own engines almost. Sure, they're exporters, sure, they need to be part of global trade, but reforms, development of internal consumption, these are all things that have maybe provided some resilience when it comes from the China trade engine.